For those of you just still joining, I see we have a couple coming in. Derrick Main's the CEO of the Process Fixer and Process Triage. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about our methodology and expose you to a couple of tools that you can download completely free from our website called System of Systems and Quick Map. So we won't run through it completely in here, but I will give you the explainers so that you can understand and do these exercises on your own. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and get started. I would like you to play a game. If you are with me here online, I'd like you to take a look at the screen, find the numbers 1 through 49 in consecutive order. That means you're starting with 1, then 2, 3, 4, on through 49. I'm going to give you 10 seconds and start now. 5 seconds left. 3. All right. So I'm sure all of you got to 49. Probably not. This is a really difficult thing. So the first thing that I would say is it's really unfair, because if I only wanted you to find 1 through 49, why do I have 68 and 47 and or parentheses and 83 and 74 up there? So I will fix that error for you. I will make things more efficient by removing the numbers that you don't need. And again, we'll go 10 seconds. 5, 3. Yeah, not much easier, is it? But the reality is, what if I told you there was a system to this, and then at the bottom left quadrants, the 1, and then the 2, and the 3, the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That would make it easier. So that's why systems are really important, so that people understand how to get the work done. Now, as someone who works with systems all the time, maybe this one would be slightly easier. Of course it would be. You wouldn't even need 10 seconds. You can see in a flash through visual management that these things are right there in front of you, and you can see them. Now, which one looks more like your business? This one or this one? And I joke and go back and forth a couple of times like it's an eye test. The truth of the matter is, if you're like 98% of the businesses out there, this one represents more of what your business looks like than this orderly one. And that's really a challenge. That means it's harder to do the work. It takes more time to do the work. It takes more money to do the work. It takes more people to do the work. You have to verify if they did it correctly all the time, because you don't trust the system. When you use words like verify or check or status, and hey, let me just look at that before you send it to the customer. Can somebody quality check this? Can we just double check it? Can we just make sure before it goes out the door? When you say those words, every one of those words means only one thing. I do not trust my people, and I do not trust my process. That's because you look more like this than like this. If your system looked like this, you wouldn't have to check and do all those things. So think about not only how much time it takes the people in the process, but think about just the administration of that process. Edward W. Edwards Deming, who is the father of modern day statistics, the influence and creator for systems like total quality management, Lean, and Six Sigma, probably the greatest statistician in the last 2,000 years, looked at American systems and determined that 85% of the reasons for failure are deficiencies in the system and process rather than with employees. Therefore, the role of management must be to change the process rather than badgering individuals to do better. 85% of the problems happening in your business could be cut off and thwarted if the process was better. Now, think about that at McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't hire PhDs. They hire really anybody because their system is so good that it's almost impossible to make a mistake or make an error. To that point, I recently talked to a McDonald's franchisee, and I mentioned this. I said, yeah, McDonald's uses things like the beeping sound to let people know the fries are done. And he stopped me and said, actually, we found that it was still possible to make an error and ignore the beeping sound. Therefore, today at McDonald's, the fries automatically come up out of the grease when they are perfectly done. So creating systems where work is simply done is really important, because it will reduce your costs, it will improve your quality, and it will create greater value for your customers. Now, to understand this, we need to first understand that we're all in the same business. Every single business on the planet all does the same thing. We take inputs that we purchase, people, time, uh, materials, and we transform those into outputs, the thing that our customer wants, the deliverable, the service, the product. If we're really good at our business, we also understand the outcomes. We understand the NPS scores, the satisfaction. We understand our warranty. We understand how things work after the fact. So almost every CEO understands their inputs. They know the cost of those. They all have looked at the balance sheet and the P&L, the profit and loss statement and the financial statements, and they can look at it and they can see what the outputs of the business were. How many units did we ship and how much profit did we make and all those things. But when we really get down to it, very few of us know how the sausage is made. The place where, according to Deming, 85% of the problems are started and created, and where all of our profit is either made or lost. And for some reason, oddly, we don't spend any time working on those systems. So, dollar for dollar investments into the system improve the overall throughput of the organization. Now, for every process out there, there is a process for everything. And either you are the intelligent designer of that process, or you have allowed evolution and mutation to dictate what actually happens. And that means you've got a high rate of variation. Things vary. You never get the same result twice. Things don't ever really flow well. There's probably 4 ears on it and 6 eyes, and it doesn't really operate in your best interest. You have to become the active designer of your systems. And I'm going to give you some exercises today to do that. We've all been familiar with the work of Simon Sinek, who says that every company knows what they do. A few even know how they do it, but fewer still know why. Start with why. Well, if you're like many organizations out there, you've done that. You've now understand your why. You've written out your mission and vision. You've tied it to your customers' values. Your employees understand it. You understand why you do the work. So if you know what you do and you know why you do it, we have a massive gaping hole in the middle. And that is how. How do we get the work done? How is the sausage made inside of our organizations? So I want to introduce you to Rosie Rosenberger. He is the founder of Process Triage. Process Triage was created in 1993 as part of one of the largest telecommunication companies on the planet. And this was used as a secret sauce for them, not only to map out their processes so that they could better understand what was happening in the business, but as part of the conversation that happened through this process mapping exercise, we now today have a method called process triage that eradicates pain inside the process, creates remedies for it, and figures out how to make the work better. So, for those of you who remember 1993, you remember the shoulder pads with ladies. And I love the fact that Rosie has a beeper on, a pager on in this picture there on his belt. This is like when cell phones were just really getting started. This is what the method looks like today. And it's done through a 90-day program where we do a workshop, where we bring together frontline people doing the actual work, not executives, not leaders, but the people who are hands-on. We call them the believables, the people that are out in the field that do the work, that know how things get done. We have them map out their process, and then we extract from them where they are seeing the observation of broken things, things that are happening that shouldn't be happening. We don't have the right tools to perform this work. We don't get the right orders in the right time in order to do that. We can't order the materials. We hear from them about their pain, and then we work to remedy that pain by extracting it from them and then creating a 90-day workflow that we can work with that company to eradicate those things. So what is triaging? It's about quickly assessing events or behaviors that are happening that shouldn't happening, sorting out the solutions for them, ranking them, and then focusing on which ones are the most important. We've probably all heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. 20% of the things create 80% of the results. Our goal in a workshop is not just to extract the pain from the people, but then to rank that pain, understand which things have the greatest impact, and then focus attention on those things first to fix those. A little bit about us. We've been doing this work for more than 20 years. We have an experienced team of project management, change management, uh, data analysis, software development, product creation. Our head of process mapping is a former 911 dispatcher. Think about how 911 has to think about dispatching calls. Every day they're thinking about what's the next scenario that could potentially happen. So we've got a robust team here in Tempe, Arizona, and we have over 75 people certified in our methodology that they can go out and use this inside organizations. And we probably got signed up about 30 companies that have people internally to them that are employees of the organization that use this methodology to extract pain, to map out processes, and to create project plans and remedies for these common errors and mistakes that are happening in the business. So documents tell us why, financials tell us what, but the only way for us to navigate to a destination is through a map. Those tell us how and where. We understand this when we're on a road trip, traveling across the country. Oddly, we don't think about it when it comes down to our business of having a map up on the wall that says, here's where we're going, here's our destination, and here's how we get there step by step along the way. We're going to show you a couple of methods to start you on that journey here in just a few minutes. First and foremost, I want to tell you a story. This comes from human evolution itself. But 100,000 years ago, when we lived in caves, every instance where we ran into a saber-toothed tiger, it was a bad day. The slowest runner among us likely was going to fall victim to that predator. That is until one day on the wall of the cave, as the fire is going, someone reached down and grabbed a piece of charcoal from that fire, stood up on the wall, and drew a picture of a tiger. And for the first time ever, we could see a tiger and we could separate the vision of that tiger from that fear and that understanding that that tiger could hurt us. And because it was up there on the wall, we could stand side by side and we could analyze the situation, and we could begin to abstract and strategize and map our actions and think about, oh, if we dug a pit and we ran past it and the tiger fell in the pit and we threw rocks down on it and we jabbed it with our spears, we could solve this problem for our tribe. And then we could go out and we could put that into practice in the field. And then we can come back and say, yeah, that didn't work quite right. Derrick was the slowest runner and he's no longer with us. Now we've got to work on something else. So this is a way of human thinking. This is what took us out of the caves. And if you look at all of the early cave paintings, they look like this. They are literally mothers and fathers and sons and daughters standing at a wall, shoulder to shoulder with a stick, pointing out things and saying, here's the sharp part of the tiger. Here's the soft part. How are we going to solve this problem? So this is what we need to do in our business. Here's a great example of that. Client we work with here in Arizona, we just did a workshop with them. We went in, we rolled out the process maps, we put them up on the wall, and for 25 minutes, the entire organization talked about the interconnectedness of all of the things they do and how it impacts each other and where there is pain, what causes that pain. You can see all these folks pointing fingers. This is 20, 25 minutes into the conversation, and they're abstracting, they're strategizing. The CEO in this situation was just elated. He said, I've never heard all my people, 80 people in the room. We had to split up into two groups. And he's like, I just can't even, the amount of conversation that's happening about having a conversation about how to improve my business, how to make it easier to do the work and provide more value to our clients and produce a higher quality. Like, that's just outrageous. Usually they want to talk about baseball games and football. Here today, they're talking about improving the business. And that's what we want to do, is start that conversation internally. Process mapping is a technique that has been done for years. If you even get into the ancient cuneiform tablets that were the basis of civilization, they're either maps, here's where you get the water, here's where the trading post is, here's where the marauders are, or their standard operating procedures. So these two techniques of writing out where things are and explaining people how things get done are just really pivotal human evolution, but we don't really use them in our businesses today. This is what our projects look like at the end of the day. We have detailed process maps of actions and results showing the interconnectedness of all things. The little pink callouts there are pain as observed by the people in the process and things that they're seeing, not a resource constraint or a person, but something that It just doesn't make sense. Why do we do this? Just doesn't work. This is broken. Over on the left, we have a table of improvements. This is the remedies that come out of that workshop for that day. And then we also have a goal for that workshop. So I'm going to start to walk you through that technique right now. If you'll go to the website, processfixer.com/quick maps. You can print out all the exercises needed to do this. You don't actually need them here while we're doing it today, because I'm just going to be explaining it to you, and you'll need a little bit of time to think this through. I will just tell you that when you're doing this exercise, the most powerful tool that you can get is a pencil. And that is because you're going to probably erase things multiple times as you start to abstract. Think in this way of analyzing and designing a process. Very quickly, you start to write things out and you go, that doesn't work. Get one of these old erasers, the pink eraser you had in middle school, and use that to erase this out. But you'll want to download the System of Systems map and the Process Triage Quick Map. These both will print on 8.5 by 11s. If you have 8.5 by 14 paper, that's legal paper, the triage map's a little easier to do on that. And for those of you who are in engineering or construction, we also on the website down at the bottom have plotter printer versions of this. If you want to print these out 3 feet by 2 feet, makes it a little bit easier to do. But let's go ahead and get started with this. The first exercise is called System of Systems. System of Systems is thinking about, let me explain this quickly. There are actions that are occurring in your business all day long. Actions produce results. Results, when you do a series of actions and you get a result from it, that's called a project. When you repeat that project over and over and over, that's called a process. When you combine processes together with other processes, what you get is a system. So every department in your organization has a system. It is the way that they take their inputs and they transform those into outputs. What I would like you to do in this exercise, and there is a video there on the website, write out what your core systems are. That's the 4 in the middle here, the flow. Is that marketing, then sales, then operations, then service or warranty? Is that something different? Maybe you are a third-party manufacturer. Maybe you just get RFPs. You can write out your 4 core. What are those 4 core systems? You might call those departments right now in your company: sales, marketing, operations, service. You want to write out those 4 core. And then what are those that supplement and support that? HR, R&D, technology, procurement. I'll show you some examples here. Here's the 4 core: sales and marketing, operations, delivery, service. Yours may vary. What are the supporting? R&D, tech, finance, human relations, procurement. So write those things out. You can have multiple people in the organization do this. I actually do it as a leadership exercise. And then we compare it and we say, is this, well, yeah, we all see it the same way. And then we come up with a final one. This is how it works. You can always print 2. I have companies that have 16 or 18 processes. They just print 2 of these out and just work through that flow. So the next question I would have after you do that is, you want to rank these. You want to say, looking at these 8 core processes or whatever you've come up with, you want to ask yourself, which one of these is the one that keeps you awake at night? What's that one that you're just like, man, this thing someday is going to get us? And then what's number 2? What's number 3? And what's number 4? You may be able to outline all 8 of those, but for the most part, most people can do about 4 of them before they really have to start getting challenged and thinking about it. But think about, what are those 4 processes that are really a pain to you right now, that are causing you to lay awake at night, maybe causing you to lose customers. So the other thing that you want to do with this system of systems is, not only are you going to rank those out, but I want you to also just think, this is just an abstraction exercise, think about the friction that happens between those departments. There's a reason I put those 4 as an amoeba here in the center. And that's because they really do flow together very consistently. But you want to think about friction. You know it, I know it. If no matter what industry you're in, there's always friction between sales and operations. There's always friction between marketing and sales. These things happen. So it's important to understand these things and recognize that there is definable friction in between those departments. Now, the exercises we're going to do are going to be internal to a department, to a system, but it's important, once you've done this a little bit and you get into the methodology, to start thinking about those interrelationships. Because if you can balance that friction and remove it between those departments, very, very quickly things start to flow through at a much greater speed and velocity, and you obtain kinetic energy inside your business. So that's the first exercise, system of systems. Now, once you've done that, and we've done this with a couple of leaders and prioritized which one you think is the most important, then you want to move on to the quick map exercise. Quick mapping looks like this. It is essentially actions results mapping. So it's going to be, we're only really going to do about 10 bubbles on this. The objective here is not to define everything that's happening. The objective here is to create a framework that we can begin a discussion on pain. Where are people hobbling around inside the business? Where have they been hamstrung? Because there's system problems, as Deming said, that are restricting them from doing their highest and best quality work. So we want to look at that map, print that out. There's two sides to it. On the front side is the exercise. On the back side is the explanations. But I want to walk through each one of these because I think they're very important in understanding how this all works. So this is the plotter printer version. If you've got that on your in your toolkit, you can use. So first thing we want to do is set a process capability goal. Each of these systems should have a goal. And that goal should be something that we expect it to be able to perform in the next 12 to 18 months. We're probably all familiar with SMART goals. This is a SMART goal for a process. We have to have goals for processes because we have to be able to understand what resources those processes need. If I'm saying I want to build my systems that handles $1 billion a year in revenue, but I only do $30 million right now, well, then I'm over engineering. I'm overspending on that process. So being able to identify what the capability goal of each process is really important. That should be something like, we need to be able to produce 1,500 widgets a day with 98% quality, and it's got to be time boxed. We've got to be able to complete this by 3/21/2024, whatever that might mean. For every process, have to have a capability goal. When you look at those capability goals at the end of the year, or when you do them, they should all add up to whatever the goal of that organization is that year. There's methods called like V2MOM or a lot of strategic planning exercises you can do around this specific. I'm actually doing strategic planning with 2 companies this next week using this map to actually figure out what the systems are, how they all flow, where the pains are, what are the capability goals, and then what can the whole system, the system of systems itself produce. So next thing we want to do, once we've done that, we want to go back to our map and we're going to fill out the bubbles or circles. With actions results mapping, the lines are work and the circles are completed segments of work, meaning that at the end of the day, if you go to whatever process it is that you selected, you want to put in that process trigger. What starts that? And then the red one at the end is what ends it. How do I know when these things are, where do I pass these off? It's the pass off to me. Lead generated might be that first one, and then invoice sent might be the last one. So these are the pass off points between it. So we want to think about actions and results mapping because each of those bubbles represents completed segments of work. That means that we want to use a noun and a past tense verb. So past tense verbs almost always end in ed. So we want to think about something like order created, order generated, paperwork filed. Like this is the guy, materials ordered, plans completed, plans approved, those kind of steps that go through this. Now, just one little side note, some of these, you might have a little bit of a deviation here. You might have to do a little bit of a extra circle someplace or mark one out, or maybe you have a little loop or something that goes into that. That's okay. You can do it. I also like to note that sometimes in this process of actions results, we'll get a result that's outside your purview. You can't control it because it's maybe a customer approval that you're waiting on. We'll talk for a few minutes about that here in a minute. So we want to map that out. We want to map out all of those 10. And then once we've got that in place, the next step here is to start talking about pain. Now, pain's really important inside your business because if I came to visit you and I walked in and I was limping and you said, "Oh, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of sharp rocks in my shoe. Do you have any Tylenol?" You'd think I was a crazy person. Well, because the solution would be to just remove the rocks from my shoe. But yet so many times in business, we never ask people what rocks are in their shoes. So this exercise is great at doing that. What we're asking them to is to write down, make a little dog leg off the map and say, I'm going to write down a reoccurring behavior that happens that shouldn't happen. You know what? 15% of the time, stuff comes off the production line and it needs reworked. 100% of the time, we're in a rush and that delays other customers. Or, management comes down with an order and says, this has to get done today. We have to push all sorts of things out. 50% of the time, we don't get the right leads. 25% of the time, the paperwork is filled out incorrectly. Have yourself do it yourself, but get those believables in a room, people who do the work, and ask them where the pain is. You might be surprised because usually their pain is really simple behavioral activity things that can be resolved quite easily through some action. So now you've got your system of systems map. You've identified your process that's important to you. You have you've written out a capability goal, a SMART goal for that process. You've created your bubbles. And now it's about the pain, writing down that pain. Once you've got that pain, the next exercise is really where the beauty of all of this comes in. Yes, the map's important. When we do workshops, I have clients that love the maps. They want those maps. They want to be able to abstract and see what's happening inside the business. But the reality is the first and most important thing is identifying pain in that process and getting it out, because that will make things smoother. I don't want to train somebody on a broken process. If I train them on a broken process, I have to train them how to work around the fact that that process is broken, how to take extra steps, how to, that doesn't make any sense. So the next is triage. Triage is the French word for sort. And all we really are doing here is critical thinking exercise around determining the remedy to that problem. So how we do this in a workshop is we have that person get up. First and foremost, we explain what the capability goal is. We want to be able to produce this many widgets by this time. And then we have them express their pain. Hey, 50% of the time, I know you guys want that 1,500, but 50% of the time, the orders come down to the line and they're missing something and we have to reject them. Okay. Then we just ask them these questions. Does that inhibit the goal? Yeah, it does. Do we know why? Do you know the most likely cause? Huh. I'm not sure. Okay. Then you see the little arrow going over there. We don't know the most likely cause, someone's got to analyze why. That's how analyze why 50% of the time we get orders and they don't have that information. That's a little bit of a project that requires management to maybe put a little bit of resources to pull some people together, maybe hire a consultant, maybe hire an analyst. Most businesses don't have business analysts on site. Big companies do, because all day long they're doing this. Let's analyze why. Let's analyze why. Let's figure this out. Let's get to the root cause. If you do know the solution, or when you know the solution, do you have an existing best practice? Well, I mean, sort of, nope, then you don't. You've got to have something that people can look at and point to, that they can look, they know exactly how to get it done right. So if the answer is no, do we have an existing best practice? No. Design and implement a best practice. That's what you need to do. If the answer is yes, has everyone in that organization been trained on this? Everyone that this touches has been trained on it. And when I'm talking about training, I am not talking about sending out a memo or talking about an LMS system. If you've ever been around children, you know that the process of potty training is not just hand and roll with toilet paper and pointing them in the direction of the restroom. That's not how this works. What you've got to do is make sure they truly understand. And let me tell you, if you're training on something that you haven't yet analyzed why, and you don't really know what's happening, and you haven't designed and implemented a best practice, a tool, a method, a measure, a procedure, and you're training them on that, your training is not worth anything. So it's important to make sure that we know that everybody's been thoroughly trained on how to do it the right way. And then finally, once they've all been trained, it's about accountability and reinforcement, reinforcing that training to get what they want. You cannot have accountability in your organization until you have first analyzed why that problem is happening, or why you need them to do that, design and implemented a solution, best practice, a way to do it, trained them thoroughly on it. Then and only then can you hold them accountable. So once you've done this, with each pain point, I like to have 3 or 5 on these quick maps. When we do it in a workshop, we'll get 30 plus. Once you've done that and triaged each solution, and is this analyze, design, train, or enforce, write those down on the list there that you have on the worksheet. This is just an example in the first one, so you can write over it. My first one is a design solution. I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then the last piece, which one of those is most important? Let's triage it. Which one is it? Which one of those could potentially kill us? Which one of these are walking wounded? Just rank them out 1 to 5. Which is the most important thing to your organization? And then my challenge to you would be take that and get out there and try to fix that thing. and communicate with your people about it as you're doing it, particularly if it's something that came from them. If you're doing this as a team and people are writing these things out, really rank these things out for them, rank them out as a group, and move them on through and try to process that. Now, at the end of the day, what you'll get in that quick map is similar to what you will get in a workshop. You're going to get a new perspective. You're going to see your business in a way that you have never seen it before, and you'll be able to abstract on it, strategize on it, think it through in different dimensions and say, this is the jaggy part of the tiger, this is the soft part of the tiger kind of thing. You're also going to have a rank list. You have a list from yourself that says, here's the things that I need to be focused on to resolve in my company in order to get higher quality work done. Other things that you'll get, because we're giving it to you, is our issue processing methodology of process triage. Memorize this. We actually have a workshop that's been done with Vistage for years through the founder of Process Triage, where all he did was go in and teach this methodology to executives so that they could sleep at night. When you're laying down to sleep and you think about a problem you're having, ask yourself, does it inhibit your capability goals? No, it doesn't. Then you don't need to worry about that. Yeah, it does. Do you know the most likely cause? Yeah, I do. Do we have an existing best practice? Shoot, we don't. That's what I got to do. Just gives you a place. So wins 360. I talk about this a lot because those who write the plan don't fight the plan. When we do these larger workshops, or when you do these inside your organization at a scale, and then you go out to make those changes, nobody fights you because it's their ideas. It's the believables. It's the frontline people. This is not HQ demanding that we do it this way. This is, wow, my peers, or I was involved in this, and management heard me, and management understood that this is important. Because of that, they prioritized it. And then the last thing you get, and this is, you have to really do this on your own, but we provide support and guidance through this process whenever you're working with us and doing a workshop, or if you're a certified facilitator. And that is us helping you on that 90-day plan. Let's prioritize these things. Let's figure out which ones can be done. What resources are needed? Who's the person that's going to be accountable for this? What is the timeline? What are their milestones? What are the check-ins? And then we just pester the heck out of you after we help you create that plan. We pester you and make sure that you get all these things done. So I want to bring this up too. This is something I don't usually talk about at Vistage, but it is important. And it's another dimension to think about in this. When you're looking at this system of systems map, and we talk about that friction, let's see, do I have it in here? Oh, I think I might have not put my fun slide in. Oh, there it is. I put it down farther. Hold on one second. Oh, we missed it. Let me move this just around and get it right for you here. So the last thing we got to think about is this, and that is that we do have friction between those departments. If your marketing team does a quick map and your sales team does a quick map, have them sit down and have a dialogue, because those explosive points of friction between departments could be really bad. We can identify interdepartmental problems like this. I guess that's intra, yeah. And then are sitting, having the team sit down themselves and talk that through is really important. One of the tips there is, if you have never moved from informal communication between departments to formal communication, I'm just going to tell you that that is the secret sauce. I've worked with bigger organizations. Every single one of them, without any exceptions, have a formal pass-off process between departments. Written documents, signed contracts. They go that far. Marketing turns over the leads to the sales leader with a statement of work that says, here's what you ask us for. You ask us for 100 leads with this qualifications and this. By this time, we have thereby delivered those to you. That is attached to it. We sign off on it. You sign off as receiving. And it changes the dimension, moving to formal communication. It's a little more rigid. And everybody always says to me, I don't want to get rid of my culture. Oh, you don't want to get rid of your culture of a lack of accountability and chaos. Seriously, you don't want to get rid of your culture that does those things. So important. Going back to Deming, the worker's not the problem. The system is the problem. If you want to improve the performance, you must work on the system. That's where it's at. Focusing on the system, systems thinking, triaging, critical thinking, root cause analysis, mapping. These are the tools needed to truly become an excellent organization. Time's more valuable than money. We audit money all the time, but we don't audit our time all the time. We don't audit our processes and systems, and we really should, because the time it takes between those bubbles, if you're looking at that map, it's another cool exercise to do. How long does each of these things take? How long does it take to get from here to here? How long does it take to get from here to here? When you begin to audit that and begin to understand what the standard is versus what the deviation and asymmetry is of that, you'll start to realize, wow, we could do twice as much work with the same amount of people and get a higher quality outcome if we just brought a little bit of rigor to our process. So let me show you one more thing as we complete here. This is for companies that are working with us. This is what their workflow looks like. Yes, there's a workshop component. It's very fun and it's the thing that everybody wants to talk about, but we do pre-work with them. Even if this is a corporate facilitator, somebody internal to an organization, we're there for them. It's like, hey, look, let's make sure you're getting your people onboarded. Let's make sure you have an executive sponsor for this. Who's going to be the lead in the room that's going to make sure that they keep, keep the flow of things moving and hear from the people about the challenges that they're having. Then we do a readiness call right before the workshop, about a week before. Do we have a capability goal set? What process are we going through? What are the outcomes we're trying to get? Who are these believables that we have in the room? What are their roles? We want to make sure that these are, I like to have believables in the room that are a little bit loudmouth sometimes. I want the people that are willing to say, you know what? That's not right. That's BS. We shouldn't do it that way. I don't want the people that just shrink back and, well, I don't know. I need people that are vocal about this, that'll give me the truth. Then we do that 1-day workshop. That workshop, that first half of the day, we're working on building that process map up on the wall and facilitating that. They're doing the hands-on stuff. They're writing out the bubbles and circles and putting them all up. And we have custom assets that were created by 3M to do this. They put all that up on the wall, and then we teach them about pain, and then we teach them about remedies, and then we teach them about triage and ranking, and they're the ones that come up with that plan. 5 days post workshop, we get with you and we talk about that map. Here's a big map down here. We talk about that list of remedies that came out, and we say, look, do you agree with this? Can these things be done in 90 days? Which ones of these are low hanging fruit that maybe you could do something this week? How do you jump on this and start communicating with your people and saying, hey, we heard you, and wow, we forgot about this, and thank you so much, and let's get these things rolling, because those who write the plan don't fight the plan. And then about 2 weeks later, we deliver the maps to you. We ship these in a big tube. These are 20-foot long maps. We give you a bunch of small ones too for your believables. And then it's really off to the races at that point. Let's walk through it. Let's prioritize and rank out which are the 5 or 3 things you're going to attack in this next 90 days, whatever that is. We ask you for a project plan at that point. We'll share with you a 1-page project plan that, let me see, these are all of our documents here on how things work. Here's the project plan. We're going to ask you to have whoever's going to be the sponsor of that, whoever's going to be the leader, the accountable party, the responsible party. Look, what is this? When are you going to get it done by? Why are we doing this? What are the consequences if we don't do it? What's the impact of the organization? What resources do you need to get this done? And then we're going to turn that all into a plan for you like this, so that each week you can call those people up, or they can jump into a Google Drive, or you can have a weekly meeting with them and you could say, how you doing? Did you get it done? You got it done. This was your milestone for this week. Is it complete? And you just keep them accountable to the system. And then we, every 30 days, are getting on the phone with you and saying, how's it going? What's happening? What do you need? What resources? Coach you a little bit, give you some ideas on how to get these things through. And then we have a whole other series of things around change management that we'll help you with. We'll give you some templatized solutions so that you can begin doing this work internally while we're there helping you. Now, if you're interested in becoming a facilitator in this method, we're your coach. I mean, we are your outsourced sort of operations experts on the back end. When you're doing these workflows, you call us and say, hey, I need a little bit of help with this. Or can you look in the database of the other construction companies or the other doctor's offices we have? And can you tell me if there's, if other people have struggled with these same kind of things? And obviously we'll keep the confidentiality, but we'll look at the metadata and come back to you and say, yeah, you know what? You probably should check the insurance in this step versus this step. That's what the industry standard is. And then at the end of that 90-day workflow, we have a call with the executive again. We say, look, here's what you've done. Here's what you've accomplished during that time. Here's what you should celebrate. Let's try to measure some of these results. And then usually most companies, by that, right around the 60-day, they're going, we're getting itchy. We want to do another one of these. How do we get another department rolling? And we're working on getting that scheduled for you as well. This is really about continuous improvement. Yes, you'll have good process maps to be able to train on and show your people and be able to abstract and put those up during strategic meetings and have conversations. But those are living, breathing documents. Those are changing regularly. The world is changing more today than it's ever changed in the past. And it's really important to have that abstraction, that way of looking at it, and then just keeping those things updated. We have clients that have been doing this for 10 plus years. Every one of their processes they go through every year, because it changes. It's different people, it's different problems. Problems get resolved, which cause different problems farther down the line. Now we have unlimited leads, but we don't have, and we have unlimited sales, but now we don't have the capacity to produce those kind of things. So just really keeping this going on as a true, a true cycle. That's it for me. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Eric Dorr or myself. There's Eric's information right there. We will open it up to questions in case anybody has anything they would like to ask, or if you want to throw something in the chat. We have a couple questions. Okay, a couple questions in the chat. And if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or throw them in the chat. What types of companies benefit? It's really across the board. The best thing to do is to reach out to us and we can help you get started. Do a couple quick maps, like that's a great exercise for people to go, oh, wow. One of the things I love, and Eric can attest to this, is regularly we get on a sales call with somebody and they say, yeah, we've been looking at your method. And I say, well, yeah, obviously you have, because it's pinned up in your back wall. And then they'll turn around and get a little embarrassed. They're like, oh my God, yeah, we printed out a bunch of those. We've been doing that. And we're realizing that this is really valuable. Like, we want to do the real thing now. We don't want to just do the test drive. We want to buy the Ferrari and get to work. How often do customers revisit their maps? Yeah, 12 to 18 months is what I suggest. That every 12 to 18 months, you have to do at least an audit of those, bringing some people together and saying, is this still true? Should we still be doing these tasks and activities? What new automation tools are out there? AI, those kind of things. Any business stories, case studies, turnaround, quick art. Yeah, there is a lot of quick wins that come out of this. We really categorize, if you're a company that uses EOS, we think about these like rocks and to-dos. We call them heavy lifts. The heavy lifts are bigger projects that are going to take 90 days or more to get them accomplished. Regularly, we find things like, nobody's been trained on this system. And management goes, yeah, we trained everybody 3 years ago. And we go, but nobody in this department worked here 3 years ago. Dang it, we missed that one. Or, oh, wow, wait, you mean the ERP is not putting the right information into the right forms, and therefore we're going and manually doing all these things? Let's make a phone call. So there is a real good way to approach this. What's the ideal time to do this type of workflow? It is continuous. It is continuous improvement. There is no use ever stopping. And I'm not saying that as a sales pitch. I'm saying that because no matter how long you've been in business, there's always something you can improve upon. You can always make it better. You can always lower the bar for training and make it easier to train people. You could always improve the quality and value of your organization. And I think the best companies are the ones that really embrace that and do that and make that just part of who they are and what they do. I'm going to go ahead and see if anybody else has any other questions. If not, please feel free to check out the processfixer.com/quick maps for these quick map for these exercises. Also, check out our podcast. We've got 150,000 plus operations experts that listen to that podcast. We talk about these type of things all the time. We haven't talked, I guess in the last couple of months, we've talked a little more about process triage, but we talk just a lot in general about operational excellence, how to run an excellent organization that people don't ever want to leave, and that people feel like their voice is heard and they are actively thinking from the neck up. They're not just hands inside the organization. They become partners in the intellectual advancement of that organization and thinking about strategy, thinking about improving your business for you. We'll give it just another minute. And if no one else has any questions, I will thank you for your time. And please reach out to us, Eric at The Process Fixer, or Derrick, Derrick, at The Process Fixer. Hit us up on LinkedIn and all of the other ways that you can find us. If there are no other questions, thank you all for being here today. Really enjoyed it. And if you have questions, please reach out to us. Okay, until next time.